I'm Alex Rondinan, and welcome to If History is Any Guide, the political and current affairs program on Bizz 99.9 FM Substitute Radio. Don Chipp stands as the only ever Liberal Party member in the party's history that I am fond of and can say that I like. One of the reasons why is because Chipp, when push came to shove, resigned from the Liberals. He became so sick of Malcolm Fraser that he had to quit and make his own political party. Chipp, in the cabinet of the coalition government during the 1960s and early 1970s, made policies and social political restructures that can be applauded and celebrated. Following the 1950s, McCarthyism, anti-communism, witch hunting, Robert Menzies as PM years, Australia had incredibly strict censorship regulations over the books and films available to the community. As well as that, the censorship organisation was confidential, so there could never be any public accountability. As censorship was in his portfolio, Chipp changed all that, decreeing that a more open and public, democratic and small L liberal orthodoxy would be taken towards censorship. Chipp signed in this new age of personal freedom by declaring, quote, "I am a person who believes a fully adult person should be entitled to see pretty near what he wants," end quote. Along with that, Chipp made it very clear he was opposed to government secrecy. Quote, "We should all recoil at the suggestion of censorship of facts. Political censorship or censorship of knowledge have no place in democratic society at peace," end quote. Chipp was given praise for his, quote, 20th century thinking, thanks to his very progressive thinking towards the status of women in society. Those days were in the middle of the women's rights movement. Chipp was well in tune to the needs and demands of the Australian people. This is decisively evident in the Australian Democrats' opening policy statement that Chipp released in 1977, which was announced in direct antagonism to the Fraser government's, quote, family values policies. The statement read, quote, "The Australian Democrats acknowledge the obvious and basic rights of women to be entitled to social freedom and equality of opportunity in all aspects of life and to a non-discriminatory social and economic status," end quote. The statement goes on to say, quote, "Women are entitled to choose whatever role in society they wish to take, and whatever that choice, we emphasise the importance of the contributions that women make to Australia's total social, economic and cultural development." Chipp, as well as his brainchild the Australian Democrats, held very open, accepting views towards the role of women in the professional world. Women had well and truly broken out of the home and were taking charge of their lives. The Australian Democrats were the first Australian political party to be led by a woman. After Chipp retired in 1987, most of their leaders have been women. The glass ceiling was thoroughly broken. However, Chipp wasn't always this left-wing when it came to women in society. Years earlier than that policy statement, while Chipp was in the Liberal Party, a boring MP who hadn't yet become famous in the Australian public for his small L liberal ideas, an incident occurred that made Chipp look as bad as Fraser, an old-fashioned 1950s family values Howardist. This is the story. Chipp had been put in charge for the annual celebrity cricket match between members of Parliament and the Canberra Press Gallery, the Parliamentary 11 versus the Press 11. This was a traditional contest, celebrating the institution of federal parliament alongside professional journalism in politics. Cricket was the obvious sport of choice because of its immense tradition and cultural significance in Australia. One year, Chipp was put in charge of selecting the 11 players to represent the politicians. He sent this memo to Senator Ruth Coleman, a woman Labour minister. Quote, "To me, cricket is a sacred game, and as one of its purest, I cannot accept the mind-bending prospect of crouching in the slips beside a woman. It is therefore with great reluctance, but equal firmness, that I withdraw the invitation to you to play in the Parliamentary 11 and apologise for the grief this will undoubtedly cause you." Coleman was absolutely furious. The headline in the newspapers the next day was of her labelling Chipp a, quote, "chauvinist pig." Similarly, Chipp showed how out of focus he was with Australian workers. Quote, people of my generation associate the word dropout with the hippie who smokes pot and does not make a contribution to society. The word should equally apply to the person lucky enough to be born in this country with a staid 9-to-5 job who gets home at the same time every night, mows the lawn, watches television, and then, when asked to join a political party or charity function or help at his child's school, he says he is always too busy. That person is as big a dropout as the hippie. It disgusts me that in Australia, where there are more than 7 million voters, there are so few people who are members of political parties. End quote. And that's all the time we have for today. You've been listening to If History is Any Guide, the political and current affairs program on Bizz 99.9 FM Substitute Radio. I'm Alex Rondinan. Until next time, goodbye.